if we did the rollback 5 years ago, right, it would be might have been a different story, right? But right now we live in a different world than we did all of those years ago, right? We have in high inflation, we have so many different challenges now that we didn't have um, back in those days, right? And so it is higher cost of doing business on Guam than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? Um, People don't understand what it means to run a business. And I don't mean that to be hurtful, but there are so many aspects of running a business, right? You don't go into business to lose money. You just don't. Otherwise, you fold, right? Why would you be in business to not make money, right? So that's number one. You've got to make a profit.
Up for day, it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson, and welcome to another edition of the Innovate Guam podcast where we explore all things innovation, technology, and improvement related to the island of Guam. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Substack. My podcasts drop at the beginning of each week. Also, be sure to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News every first and of each month. All right, our guest for today. She is the president of the Guam Chamber of Commerce. She was named president of the Guam Chamber of Commerce in 2015. She's been a longtime chamber leader with nearly decades of service and is frequently cited in local interviews around the Guam community. She leads the chamber's advocacy on cost of doing business and private sector competitiveness on the island of Guam. She champions public private collaboration initiatives tied to community quality of life issues. She supports cross sector convening to improve government performance and outcomes for residents, like, for example, the June 2025 Government Procurement Summit with public and private sector organizers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast Miss Catherine Castro. Catherine, welcome.
Off a day. What a pleasure. Thank you so much, Rob.
No, thank you. Um, I guess I'm repaying the compliment here. You had me on your podcast earlier this year, and now I really appreciate you coming on my podcast now.
Yes, man, you know what? We had such a great time. I think that went a little long for us. Usually we keep our podcast really small and bite-sized pieces, but it was so interesting learning from you and hearing the types of things that you're involved in, the businesses that you're involved in. So yeah, it was a great time. So thank you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you very much. We have a tradition here. We start off the podcast with a set of icebreaker questions just to kind of get a sense of where your head is at in terms of innovation. So, with the first question, what is your definition of innovation and what does innovation mean to you?
Oh goodness, I think innovation is taking something that's really, really creative and successfully implementing it so that something becomes better, something becomes more efficient, not just for one person, but for other people that would be utilizing the product or the service. That's what innovation is. And we try to encourage innovation, right? Because we're always looking for ways to do things faster, quicker, more efficiently. So we love
Yeah,
innovation.
better, cheaper, faster. Yes, absolutely. So
Mhm.
you spent years at the intersection of policy and real world business condition. What's the one small change you think that Guam can make to create an outsized improvement for local businesses and working families?
Oh goodness. I would say just really improving um, permitting process, improving. I know you said one, but improving the procurement process in the government of Guam. Because really,
Yes.
when you improve those two things, life for everybody on Guam would be so much better, because then you improve the quality of the workplace at the business level, and then all of the employees that are employed there, and then the families that are impacted by the person that's employed. I mean, it's just a trickle down effect that would. And not only that, Rob, I mean, obviously this because you're in business here. It would even encourage inward investment. People would want to
Mm,
see, why are those businesses on Guam so happy? Why are they doing
yes.
so well? I want a part of the action, right? And I think that
Yes.
we're just not doing very well on that. And I think as much as the government tries, I really think it needs to get more outside of government people involved, so that things can get done quicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself for the viewers who don't know you. You know, how did you come to such a role and such a leadership responsibility? Because the Chamber of Commerce is really a unique organization, kind of centered right between public and private policy kind of issues.
Mhm.
And one would say it's kind of like herding cats, if you will. You have all of these different businesses in the community and
Mhm.
all of these different types of industries who have different goals, different concerns, different things on their plate. And you're trying to be kind of the voice for them throughout the community. What led you to this? How did you get involved in this?
I have to really give my deepest respects to the people that were here before me, right? So the person who hired me was Miss Eloise Baza, and
Mm,
she was the president at the time. And I was, I had just had a baby, and I was looking for something that was not going to be overly stressful. And I was actually hired as a staff assistant. But I tell you, just getting to know the people in the business community, getting to understand what the issues are, and watching watching everything grow, watching how our families were able, to do better, improve the quality of life. I think that's basically what I was trying to say. So it's very dynamic. This place is very dynamic, and I just kind of really love to come to work, and just it's never the same. It's always different, like you mentioned, right? You have different personalities, you have different issues. And back in those days, we had dial up, and I frequently visited the library, the law library, looking at the GCA, the codes, looking up laws, and all of those types of things. Was very, very interesting, and I just stayed, and I've been here for almost 30 years.
yeah, so many years of service. And I tell you, um, at least in your tenure as president, you've really gone through kind of a trial by fire, if you will, that's kind of parallel to the trial by fire the island has gone through. During your tenure, we've had the huge military buildup, we've had COVID and the global pandemic, we've had the typhoon and the recovery from that, the fight with the business privilege tax. So there's a lot of really key issues during your tenure as president of the Guam Chamber of Commerce that you've done. How have you handled kind of that pressure and all of these different challenges?
Yes, certainly. I actually never thought this role I would ever fit into this role. Early on in my days here at the chamber because I never thought my personality would fit the role, right? I don't like conflict. I, I like everything to be, you know, easy but I came to understand that it's important to do the right thing and 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 always that's always top of mind is how is this going to benefit our island community, right? And so I have a very deep faith. um, I if I have to say, and I will always bring it up, people ask me how I do what I do, and I always say it's all because of the faith that I have in my God. And I leave a lot of that. um, you know, I pray a lot, and I really always try to do what's best, and that has not uh, done me wrong. I think as long as I continue to um, you know keep that focus, right? Keep the focus of what's good for our people, what's good for our business community. Really, I have to say that if we fight to have a thriving business community, it means that we have a really good quality of life for our people on Guam.
Right. Right. Innovation leaders, it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson here. Are you ready to elevate your vehicle fleet operations? Fleet Solutions is an AI-enabled fleet management system. Fleet Solutions provides real-time video, smart analytics, and total efficiency. Keep your people safe and keep your business moving forward faster than ever before. Fleet Solutions, arriving tomorrow, today. Visit thefleetsolutions.net or call 671-988-9748 to schedule your personalized demo and revolutionize your fleet operations today. So let's talk a little bit about the Guam Chamber of Commerce for the viewers who may not fully understand it. Can you just kind of explain what is the Guam Chamber of Commerce and what's your mission and kind of what's the value add for the community?
Sure. The chamber is a lot of things, but basically the chamber is like a watchdog for the business community, right? I think above and everything, we advocate. We're an advocacy organization. As you mentioned earlier, we fought really, really hard for the reduction of the business privilege tax. Again, why? Because it it helps support our businesses. The more money that the businesses can keep into their businesses, so that they can pay their employees, so that they can buy more inventory, so that keep up with their facilities, those types of things, right? And when they do that, they pay more taxes, right? And so and that's something that is important for the government of Guam, right? They can't run without people and businesses paying taxes. So basically, the chambers here, we develop, we promote, we protect the interests of all our Guam businesses, whether or not they're a member. I mean, what we work for, what we advocate for, benefits everybody, right? Um, and then we want to improve our economy. We want to make it vibrant. We want it to thrive. We want to have businesses to have access to opportunities for growth. What are those opportunities? Seminars, workshops, professional development, engagement with other businesses, right?
Yes.
Where would you be able to, having a small business or a medium-sized business meet with big businesses, right? I mean, that would be a chamber meeting, right? Because then that way, and it really behooves businesses, to come to a chamber meeting so that they can meet and engage and with other businesses, with other companies. You don't even realize that you may need those services one day, right? If you
Right.
don't need them now, you might know somebody who needs those services. Hey, I just met somebody, at that table over there, right? Who's looking for your services. Come here, let me introduce you, right? I mean, I
Yes.
find myself doing that a lot, right? and
Yes,
connecting people together. And I think that is the heart, right, of what the Chamber of Commerce does.
absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the chamber. The chamber traces its roots all the way back to 1924. Now you've kind of grown to the point where you represent over 400 plus members. Can you talk a little bit about uh, the history of the chamber and how its role has evolved over the decades?
Sure. I think, back in those days, right, we had Chester Butler, who had the first Coca-Cola bottling plant outside of the United States, and it was here in Guam, right? Um,
Okay,
we had Mr. Underwood, and a handful of these businesses. The folks from Atkins Kroll, right? Atkins Kroll has the first business permit 001, right? These
wow,
companies, said, "Hey, we've got to work together, right?" And so that we can make things better, not only for ourselves but for our community. And again, like that still holds true today, right? Um, Back in those days, copra was the main industry, right? And so Atkins
what
Scroll,
was the main industry? Sorry.
copra, coconut, copra,
Oh,
yes. And so copra, there was several, people would, or back even before when the Spaniards were coming to Guam, they were bringing copra to other parts of wherever they were traveling to, right? And so Guam has always been a strategic place for mariners, right? So yeah, so the chamber has always been, kind of uh, uh, an entity that brings businesses together so that they can have, always it always comes back to uh, a better quality of life for people, right? Um, we have done a lot of different things. We have helped to stand up certain entities on Guam. We revived certain entities on Guam. Uh, we Because there was a need for it, right? And then, as you know, in 1998, we established the Armed Forces Committee because Guam was really, really hurting. We had lost we had a brain drain when they had closed SRF. A lot of our skilled workers left. We were going through challenges with the visitor industry. I mean, it was just
right,
really difficult. And when the United States bracked us, right, we had lost a lot of the opportunities and the resources that would utilize our businesses services. So it
right,
was time to we had the group met with big uh, 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 community leaders, including the governor, including the archbishop, including several other community leaders, and they said, "What can we do?" And the suggestion was the chamber suggested it was let's see if we can bring ships to Guam. Let's see if we can bring the military back here because we could provide them with services. We could provide their ships with the stuff that they need for their ships. Then they'll have liberty and they can come out and visit our hotels and eat in our restaurants and things like that,
right.
right? So that was it's basically the start of everything. And then we worked on, how do we get our small businesses involved in these military contracts, right? And so now, and of course, we involved our partners, right? The Guam Contractors Association and things like that. So now they play a big role in those types at handling these types of issues, right? So the chamber has had quite a role in in different things throughout the decades that we've been here. We are very pleased with these successes.
Yes. Did the chamber play a key role in like some of these key eras, excuse me, like when there was a development of Tumon with all of the different high-rise hotels and all the tourist attractions. Now you already kind of talked about it, the military buildup phase that we're still in right now. Was the Guam Chamber of Commerce a key kind of organizing node to help make that happen, make that economic development and that drive of the era happen?
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, we're always there to, support opportunities for growth, right? So, providing, encouraging government to provide incentives for inward investment, right? How are these big businesses going to, you know, um, build a hotel here, right? Well, they need incentives, and so providing the expertise to sit on government boards, that came from the chamber, the people that are in the business community, right? Um, Governor Gutierrez had this really great thing about Vision 2020 when he was the governor, and
Mm,
um, he invited several people in the business community to sit on these commissions and task force and things like that. So it's we always try to be good partners, right? And Guam is so small, really. You have to be able to work
right.
together. It's imperative that we do that, so that we can grow together, right? I think we all want the same thing. It's just a matter of how do we get there, right? But if we're all
Yeah.
at the same table and we're able to, communicate and come up with, different ideas and ways to implement, then it just makes everything that much more easier.
Yeah. Understood. Catherine, can you walk us through kind of the chamber's main levers, if you will? Talking about the committees, you start talking a little bit about armed forces committees, but you've got lots of different committees, government relations, et cetera. The member services, the events, leadership development, scholarships, and
Mhm.
community initiatives. Can you talk about how you as a president kind of um, reach out and grab those different levers in order to make an impact and how you prioritize what focus and resources go into which lever.
Well, technically, I do the work of I am the administrator, right, for the chamber, but really the board sets the tone, right? The chairman, the
Yeah.
executive committee, and the board, and they come up with a strategic plan. We visit it every
Hmm.
year, and we decide, which of these issues that we want to tackle, right? And then the committees come into play, right? How do these committees um, support the strategic plan, right?
Yes.
Uh, Sometimes we have to develop ad hoc committees to address particular issues. At one point back in the 90s, we were going through um, power outages. We called it load shedding, and so the chamber created an ad hoc committee on the power authority. We came together and we said, look, we want to help you. How are we going to make, what can we do, and how can we work it out so that we don't have these rolling power outages? It's not only is it,
Yes.
hurting individual residents and businesses, but it's impacting tourism, and it's impacting the ways that people can do business, right? And so, we address things like that, right? And it's basically, so we've got, again, going back to the committees, we have various committees that support the strategic plan and the general welfare of our business community, right? And the needs, right? So we've got small business committee. What are the small business committee needs, right? And every year we try to look at what are some issues that they're going through, and for the most part, at least recently, right, they really are looking for innovative and inexpensive ways to train their employees. Workforce is very, very important. Workforce is gold right now, right? And it's so businesses will try their best to keep their employees, because, as you know, it's difficult to train. And then when you lose somebody, then you've got to retrain again. So,
Right.
right. So businesses are really working hard to work on their the benefits that they offer, the workforce environment, things like that, so that we businesses can keep their employees, right? So, again, what these committees do is they look at what are some of the issues that businesses are going through and how can they support them in making it easier, in helping them to succeed, that sort of thing. And so, um, some other committees we have, as we mentioned, is the Armed Forces Committee. We have the Guam Young Professionals. We have a Business Women's Network. We have a legislative review committee. It's a government advocacy group, right? So we take a look at all the different bills that come out of the legislature, decide which of those bills would be, particularly impactful. Sometimes we go to the various industries if there's industry specific, and we ask the industry, hey, is this bill going to impact you? If so, can you let us know, and how can we support, right? What are some of the ways that it's going to hurt you, or is it good for you, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we go and we say, hey, this is a great bill, right? We're not all gloom and doom, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, and that's the reason why these committees exist, right? Is because we're trying to support the members and the businesses that, just to help them to succeed.
Yeah, it really highlights, Catherine, the importance of relationships, particularly in your role as president, because you have all of these people, these leaders in their own right, and they're part of the organization, they're part of all these committees and stuff like that, and they're all working all of these different kinds of initiatives. So, and then you have your board there and the board chairman and stuff like that. So you really have to have relationships and the unity of effort synchronized so that everybody's marching in the same direction. So hats off to you, how successful you've been in that role. So tell me, how do you measure your impact?
Well, I think, you know, number one is uh, the resiliency of the chamber, right? We're here since 1924. We're over 100 years old, and I think that, we wouldn't be here if we weren't significant, and if we didn't make a significant impact on our private sector, right? And maintaining the membership that we have, that is a coup. It really is, and especially in these economic times, it shows us that businesses see the value in what the chamber does, for not only for them but for the community. So
Yeah,
that's basically, what the measure is, right? I always love to get feedback from the members. I invite the members to call me to, to share what some of the what concerns they are. Tell me some of the things that they wish the chamber did, right? Maybe there are some things that, we're lacking, or, so I welcome all, ideas and thoughts, and I try to, be open and, be understanding, right? But really, I think that I know that the work of the chamber is really through the efforts of the chamber volunteers and the businesses that come and uh, not just to butter their own bread, but to be able to make things better for everybody, and that is
everybody. Yeah,
key. Yeah.
yeah. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions out there, Catherine, about the chamber? Because obviously, looking in from the outside, you know, public or the community might have one perception of what the chamber's all about. Government might have a whole different uh, idea about it, as well as even
Mm.
individual businesses, their view of what the chamber is all about. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about the chamber
Yeah.
and your role?
In my role, I have to say that most folks believe that the Guam Chamber of Commerce is a government entity, like many people within the community. They think that we're a government entity, and we're not. We're, a nonprofit business support organization, and it's very much private, right? But another thing too is that small businesses think that we're only for big business. And
Mm,
that's really not the case. We're really for small businesses, right? We're here to always promote our small businesses, all businesses, right? And but it's important to note that small businesses are the heart of our community everywhere in the United States, right? They are the backbone of every community, and so small businesses
yes,
are super important uh, to our quality of life, right? What are we going to do without our small mom and pop stores? What are we going to do about, specific, coffee shops and things like that, right? I mean, um, whether or not you are in retail or you offer a photography service or you offer secretarial services, uh, what the chamber does is for everybody, right? It's not just for big business. And I think that even big businesses really appreciate the opportunities um, to expand their services through meeting small businesses, right? What are
yes,
some of these things, and how can we partner with these small businesses, right? And so it really behooves anybody that has a business license to take a look at what the opportunities are at the Chamber of Commerce, right? Chamber is the you know the uh, the gateway, right? It's kind of like the uh, we're the business, we're the support organization for every business in every industry, right? We're not a specific, we're not we don't exist just for one particular industry. We're here for everybody, for all businesses.
do you find that that creates challenges with the small businesses? Like small businesses are more reluctant to join the chamber because they think it's not for them. They think it's just for the big businesses. And what do you do to really reach out to the small businesses and make them feel part of it so that you can get more of them in?
Sure, I know. Yeah. So we, you know, we always encourage small businesses to join our small business committee, because when you join the small business committee, you get an opportunity to hear from other small businesses, and you realize you're not alone, right? The some of the challenges that you face, there's other people that are going through those challenges or have overcome those challenges, right? And you can pick their brain, and for the most part, people want to help. They want to help people succeed, right? And I remember, I one small business. She is a woman owned business. She was the only employee in her business, right? She joined at the invitation of a board member. And
Hmm.
then after a couple of months, she came in and she said, I don't know if I can continue. I have bills to pay, and I can't pay dues, and I'm having a really tough time, right? And so I encouraged her, why don't you come to the next small business committee meeting, right? She came to the next small business committee, and we were talking about seminars and workshops, and it turned out that we were trying to find somebody to talk about customer service. Well, this individual offered customer service training. She goes, you know
Yes,
what? I think I can offer that. How long is the seminar? All of these things. She did it for free. And
yes,
that was the beginning of the jump start of her business. And so take a chance. I mean, I think that's what it is you take a chance. if it's really not for you, if you've tried it, but it's really what you put in. The chamber is not a magic thing. You're going to
Yes.
join the chamber and then, okay, here it goes. No, you've got to put in. You've got to put in too, right? You've got to come to the meeting
Yes.
so that I can introduce you to other people. You've got to come to a mixer, right? So that you can,
Yes.
engage with these other people, right? Some of these people, you don't even know if they're looking for your services, right? But you've got to participate. That's the key. That's the important part.
And I agree with you 100% what you said about most people want to help. They want to help. That's kind of why they're coming together to really collaborate and help and stuff. So if you come in and you've got the right kind of attitude, you're not just wanting to be a taker, you also want to be a giver,
Mhm.
and you have something that somebody's looking for, they're more than willing to bend over backwards to help you and to support you. So that's just I think an absolute 100% truth that you put out there.
Yes, yes, for sure. Yep.
All right, let's transition to kind of the next thing. I want to talk about kind of recent initiatives that are going on with the chamber. We already talked about the business privilege tax fight, and I guess why don't we start there? Um, what was kind of the background on it? Why was this so important in this year to make this stand? And now being on the back end of that, what kind of do you think are the lessons learned and kind of the next steps that you all want to take?
Yes, my goodness. Yes, this year has been quite the journey, Rob. Um, we have been fighting for the reduction of the business privilege tax for quite a while. I was actually the last year of Governor Eddie Calvo's term when they had to increase the business privilege tax by 1 point, right? And he said, and even in the bill at the time, it was temporary. It was only supposed to be for 6 months, right? Because they were concerned about the Trump tax cuts and how it may impact government coffers. And it turns out that there was no impact to the government coffers. As a matter of fact, like what we were saying was that the any type of tax cut that you give to a business will actually be better because the businesses turn it around and reinvest it. They reinvest in their people, and then what happens is that the government makes more money, right? because
Mm,
because people are spending more because they got a raise, stuff like that, right?
hmm
At any rate, there was no real, there was just a huge concern government wide that the government was not going to have enough money. And so that's the reason why they increased the BPT, and it was going to be temporary. Well, we had a new administration come in shortly after, and the administration didn't want to roll back the BPT. As a matter of fact, there was a bill, or I think maybe it might have been a rider in the next budget bill that made the increase permanent to 5%, and it did not sunset as it should have. And another part of that original bill was that we were going to go into a sales tax. We were going to transition from a business privilege tax to a sales tax. And the reason why that is good for Guam, according to our organization, is because then individual consumers can decide for themselves, right? They'll know what the tax is on everything that you purchase, from a Coca-Cola to, uh, I don't know, a new washing
A
machine.
car.
Yeah, a car, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. You make that decision. Do I really need this Coca-Cola? Because it's going to cost me an additional, you know, couple cents, right?
Yeah.
Or do I really need this new washing machine? It's going to cost me, another $100, right? So at least they know. But with the business privilege tax, because it is a tax on the business itself, um, it's a privilege of doing business. That's why it's called the business privilege tax. Well, it's an invisible tax. So a lot of times people don't realize that that cost of that Coca-Cola, the cost of that washing machine or car includes the business privilege tax, right? So anyway, that's a story, another story. But and there's always been a majority that was a Democrat majority in the legislature, and there has never been any um, uh, real impetus for them to roll back the business privilege tax. So this was the year where we had a Republican majority, and we felt like if we didn't do it now, we would never be able to do it because many of the folks that are in the legislature right now are running for a different office, and they will have a brand new legislature, right? So that was the reason why we pushed very, very hard um, to provide back a little bit of autonomy back to our businesses, right? So that they can. I mean, it was a hard fight, but we didn't get the full 1%. We got 0.5.
I was going to ask you, do you think you claimed victory, or
Mm,
um, what was the lesson learned out of
yeah,
this
yeah.
fight, and
I
do
mean,
you think you were successful?
I think it was successful. I just think, as even our chamber chairman mentioned, that it was a little too late. We have been talking about this for a number of years, and as we have seen also this year, a number of businesses have closed. Right, not only this year,
Yes.
but just throughout the years. Right, and we have seen a huge exodus of our own skilled workforce leave Guam. Right, to look for other opportunities elsewhere outside of our island, right? And so that was painful. That's something that it's a difficult pill. It hurts us, right? We don't have that workforce that we need to to be able to successfully run and do things here in our businesses. And so yeah, I think it was, yes, it was successful, but it would have been better if it was done earlier. Um, uh, but we know that we can, uh, as a business community, rally together because it was truly important for all the businesses to come together to champion this um, rollback,
Hmm.
and so we look forward to working together on other things, right? Like I said, like I
How do
mentioned
you?
earlier. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how do you combat the narrative out there that kind of um, is used to fight against it, to say, well, you're just breaks to rich people who are already these businesses money, they're already doing fine. We've been through we being regular people, have been through all of these hardships, typhoon,
Hmm.
COVID, all of this stuff.
Hmm.
And now you're going to give them a break, and I'm not going to get a break, kind of thing on it.
Hmm.
How do you combat that narrative that's out
Okay,
there when
sure,
you're trying to fight for the rollback of the business privilege tax?
sure. And I that we hear that all the time, right? We hear things like, "Oh, they haven't rolled back prices. Prices are still expensive," right? But
Right.
really, I mean, if we did the rollback 5 years ago, right? It would be might have been a different story, right? But right now we live in a different world than we did all of those years ago, right? We have a high inflation. We have, you know, uh, so many different challenges now that we didn't have um, back in those days, right? And so it is higher cost of doing business on Guam than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? Um, People don't understand what it means to run a business. And I don't mean that to be hurtful, but there are so many aspects of running a business, right? You don't go into business to lose money. You just don't. Otherwise, you fold, right? Why would you be in business to not make money, right? So that's number one. You got to make a profit, right? And then number two is you got to sustain your your facility. If you're a brick and mortar, you need to pay power, water, trash. I mean, all of these different things that are involved with a physical environment where you do business, right? And then you've got to pay taxes, and there's different taxes for different things, right? So you're paying corporate taxes, you're paying business privilege taxes, and if you're running a restaurant, then you pay um, health certificates, and then you pay for if you've got an alcohol, if you're running alcohol through your restaurant, then you pay alcohol business license fees, right? So there's all of these various things that are involved in running a business. It's not, it's just not like, well, why is this Coca-Cola? I keep mentioning Coca-Cola, Mark is just gonna love me. I'm so sorry. But why is this still, a dollar, right?
Yeah,
So, but there's reasons why it's a dollar. Well, because you had to pay the driver, you had to pay the gas that was in the truck, and all of these various things, right? And then also there is a livelihood that you're paying for, right? You're paying the driver. You're paying, you're not paying minimum wage to that driver. Are you kidding me? No. That driver is getting more than minimum wage. That driver is getting other benefits. Maybe he's getting health insurance. Maybe he has a 401k, right? I mean, there's various different things that is
right.
involved in running a business. So, I mean, I could, go on and on, but I think that that's, if you kind of, break it down that way, more people will kind of back off, right? Um, when you try to lay that down and help them to understand that there's more to it than that.
Yeah, and that was actually what you were fighting against, kind of that narrative that was out there,
Mhm.
um, and it kind of um, demonized the business community, if you will.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I felt so bad because at the public hearing, they had two public hearings, and the second public hearing, one of the senators asked the panel, says, well, can we hold off until January? Or can we hold off until next year? Right. And one of the businesses said, we don't even know if we're gonna make it through January. And sure enough, they closed. And I
Mm,
feel so bad. We've been
mm,
fighting to get these rollback, and it's just it's just a sad thing. And they have people that were employed there for a number of years, right? And this company, not only this company but other companies, they pay taxes, right? these
right.
are not, these are not companies that are fly by night companies. These companies were here for a decade or more, 50 years, 40 years, paid taxes. Their employees were like family, that kind of stuff, right?
And so, where do you go from here? You got not everything you wanted, but you got a little bit. Where do you
Right.
go from here?
Yeah. So, we just want to make sure that, things continue to move in the way that, uh, it's supposed to go, right? So in
Hmm.
October 1, 2026, we'll see the other 0.5%. And then uh, the full 4% will be the new business privilege tax. And then maybe one day we will see a sales tax. I know that there's going to be a big fight in reference to that. People don't want to see a sales tax for Guam.
Right.
Um, but there are pros and cons, right? And we have to weigh that. There should be healthy discussion in reference to that. Um,
So
so
2026, you're planning on making another stand for the other half percent on the business privilege tax, right?
well, it is already in the books. It's already part of the law. But anything can happen between now and October 1, 2026, right? I mean, legislature can change its mind. And um, redact that and change the law. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. All right, let's switch gears from business privilege tax to procurement. You already talked about that. That was like one of your number one things that the government could do to help out, make an impact on the island. And obviously, that's something that Speaker Blas is kind of taking on as uh, his rallying cry, if you will, to improve procurement. The chamber partnered with different agencies to have this government procurement summit back in the summer of this year. Um, Tell me your one, what kind of led you to want to partner with the other organizations to put this on? Two, how would you assess the conference and what came out of it? And three, kind of what are your next steps from here?
Yeah. So um, I think that the procurement uh, summit, the impetus was through speaker's office. We were trying to take a look at some of the laws um, that are already in the books that kind of hamper doing business, that kind of, make it difficult to do business. And of course, a whole slew of things came up. But one of the things was procurement and how it is uh, when you don't have clear procurement regulations in place, um, and you don't have people who understand the procurement process and the regulations, who are in the procurement uh, uh, offices at the various agencies, and then you have um, people that interpret, then you have a big problem, right? You're not following rules because it's ambiguous, and then you kind of interpret it in your own way, and then maybe this agency is interpreting this law this way, and this other agency is interpreting this law another way. So that becomes an issue. And another thing too, in reference to procurement, as we're seeing right now, is protests, right?
Yeah,
So we've, this, a good example is the Simon Sanchez. We thought we were
Simon
going to break
Sanchez. Yeah,
ground, we're going to have the ribbon cutting and the ground breaking, and now we're in a protest. And this
yeah,
happens all the time throughout all of these years, and it just really slows down progress. And
yes,
we can't afford to keep doing this. It costs a lot of money. And again, the progress of moving forward, I mean, it's impacted, right? So what was important with this uh, summit was that it brought together experts, and the people who do procurement well, and the people who do procurement who say we've got to make these changes, right?
yeah,
And how can we make these changes? And
yeah,
so but it brought us to the table, and we were able to have discourse, and it was
yes,
good discourse, right? It was, and you even wrote about it, right? So I just I it we this summit did what it needed to do. It brought people together. We were able to listen to each other. We were able to write down all of the different things that needed to get done. And so now what we did was we put it all together. We said, "Hey, Governor, this is what we need to do. Hey, Speaker, this is what we need to do." And now I believe there's some kind of group that they're trying to put together so that we can implement the changes, and and maybe even change some laws so that way. But again, action needs to be done, right? So we did the initial part. Now
yeah,
we need to follow through, and just keep following through so that we can get that much further into the process. It's
yeah. I
not
tell you, Catherine, the thing that struck me the most about that conference was there's so many things that are already on the books that
right.
aren't being followed. Um, it was kind of like a deja vu again with BJ Cruz. He already came to one Guam Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he talked about audit findings and stuff like that, and the deficiencies where government agencies aren't following what they already should be following, the accountability issue. And then here was another example of that. There's already laws on the books and people aren't following them, and they're not being held accountable. So that was really eye-opening to me, the work that BJ Cruz and his folks do through the Office of the Public Auditor.
Mhm.
Those are things that the business community really needs to get behind and champion. That, hey, government, we're not even talking about like new legislation and changes and improvement. We're just asking for you accountability for what's already on the books, what you already should be doing, and
Yeah,
what are we going to do to account for that. So
yeah,
that was really eye-opening for me.
yeah. I mean, I was floored when they said, "Oh yeah, you're supposed to have all of these bids on one particular website." And everybody was looking at each other like, "What website was that?" And
Yeah.
we were just like, "What do you mean?" Right? And
Yes,
so
yes,
I was like, "Oh my goodness." So yeah, that
yeah.
was just that's one small piece of that whole, day of discussion, right? And so yeah, we're still pushing forward. We're still trying to. It is difficult, because the government is big, right? And so they've
Yeah.
got a lot of things and issues that they're working on, right? So we'll continue to push.
Okay. All
Mm.
right. Shifting gears to the next topic. How are things going with the Chamber's anti graffiti campaign?
Oh my goodness, that is. I think it's going really well. Ben Ferguson is in charge of that particular committee, and a law was just passed. That was, I guess, Speaker Blas's bill, where now the penalties are higher for folks who want to take out a spray can and deface property. Um, the fines are higher and things like that. Um, the we've partnered with the Guam Visitors Bureau, and we actually did like an asset census of the various corridors, right? So the San Vicente, is it San Vicente? No, uh, to Monroe, uh, Marine Corps Drive, Fahrenholt, Governor Carlos Camacho Road, Chelan San Antonio. Um, so those particular corridors and business, I mean, like buildings, retaining walls, even government assets, right? Like uh, power poles, um, these little boxes, like the telecommunications boxes and other types of
Hmm.
things. We just identified them, um, took pictures. So we've got an asset census. And now what we're doing is we're going back to these various entities, private companies. Right now, we're working on the private companies. We already went to some of the government entities and some of the telecommunication companies and identified those things and said, "Hey, can you take a look at this?" So I don't know if you've noticed if you drive on those corridors, Guam Power Authority was really proactive. They've already uh, covered up those graffitis with like this yellow um, paint, right? And we were like, "Why yellow?" And they chose it because of safety.
Oh, is that what that is about?
Yeah,
Oh, I
you
didn't
notice like when you're
realize.
driving down, it's like all yellow at
Yeah,
the. And
yeah,
so
the
yeah,
yellow.
that's
Yeah, I didn't understand what that was all about. Okay.
because yeah, some of those poles were defaced with graffiti, right? And
Yeah.
um, so that's why that is there. And so we've contacted all the telecommunications companies. Can you please take care of the graffiti on your pedestals? um, Now what we're doing is we're writing letters to the private companies now and asking them to please take care of addressing those issues on their buildings, because very interesting is that DPW, the Public Works, has authority to issue fines. And
Mm,
so we're just doing one of those, like, hey, private business, this is a something that we're asking, can you please, get some paint and paint over that place or that area. Um,
Right.
and just a heads up, DPW will be coming after, afterwards and saying, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to issue you a fine. So that's where we're at. The things are going really well, slowly but surely.
Good, good. All
Yeah.
right, so let's talk about the military buildup. So with this latest military buildup, with the building of Camp Blas and the relocation of the Marines onto the island, we are probably right at our peak or just getting ready to approach our peak.
Wow.
Soon we're going to be kind of on the downward slide of this buildup. What kind of things is the chamber doing proactively to kind of not let it be a hole once we see this drop, inevitable drop from the military construction associated with the Marines locate relocation, so that the economy is not hugely impacted.
Yes. Yeah. That is an ongoing discussion with the the board here at the chamber, right? There are certain issues that are at hand right now, right? And that is the Trump administration is really having a hard stance on immigration, which has a potential impact on the H-1 visas, right? And these are the professional visas, the engineering people, and other types of um, uh, professions. And then of course our H2 is has an exemption until 2029, and then we've got to we're already starting to have discussions with DC folks about extending that to 2035, which we feel is probably going to be towards the end of the buildup, right? And so there's a lot of work still that is ongoing, um, and that is of concern. We're also, we've taken to heart what like admirals before the current ones have said, Admirals Nicholson, uh, they were saying, we need to come up with ways to prevent like red light districts in these areas, and come up with wholesome businesses that will address the needs of not only military servicemen and women and their families, but our locals, right? Like,
Yeah,
what would be great businesses to have in these areas that would benefit the entire community in that area,
yeah.
right? And so we're seeing some traction in development. I don't know if you've seen some of that as you drive on Route 3. There is some development that is happening there, and so I
The
think.
new Pacific um, industrial park, which kind of goes into one of the ones that I was going to ask you about, the Gamma. So Gamma's new facility is over in that new industrial park off of 3. So bringing additive manufacturing to the
Mhm.
island, and that is obviously a great capability that you know. I would think that the business community would want to rally around and figure out how we can plug into it the best and extract as much value as possible with that, because it wasn't intended just to be a U.S. Navy benefit and asset, but it was supposed to be an asset to the people of Guam. And so far, the way that they're moving out with that, they're doing it as a dual mission. So um, Alex Benham, who is the program manager, he was my previous guest on the podcast.
Oh, cool, cool.
So that's the one that's out right now. So
Hmm.
that would be a good one to get
I'll listen
the
to that.
community, rallied around the additive manufacturing
Mhm.
piece so that maybe we can make that into a capability for the island.
Yes, yeah, I agree. To support all of these industries, right? To support additive manufacturing, to support our healthcare industry, to support our construction
Yeah.
industry, we really need to work with our schools. I think
Oh,
it's
yes.
so important. And, you know,
Yes.
um, right now, I mean, the Trades Academy can only do so much, and kudos to them. They're doing fantastic what they're doing. Really need to start with the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools. We need to get them excited about the opportunities that are available and get them skilled up to do that. And I was
Mm,
actually at a GCA, a Guam Contractor Association event this morning, and the lieutenant governor is on fire. He was talking about Southern High School and how that can be turned into a vocational high school because again,
mm.
there is recognition that um, we need a vocational high school for Guam. And back in the day when I was going to school, we did have a vocational high school, and that was the feeder to a lot of the different things that were happening on Guam, including the SRF, right, the ship repair facility.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
and it's unfortunate that we, did away with it, but we really need to bring it back because, um, you know, what are we going to do when we don't have any more masons and electricians and plumbers and, those types of things, or mechanics, right? I mean, we need them.
HVAC
HVAC,
technician.
exactly. Is on Guam, of course we do.
Yes, yes. So, Catherine, let me ask you about this. So I think it was earlier this year. I don't think it was last year. The governor met with a delegation from Taiwan, and they were exploring a um, opportunities to move some piece of semiconductor production to Guam. The latest I understood was that GITA had gotten the go ahead to do a feasibility study to look at the feasibility of doing semiconductor production on Guam. And um, I- my understanding was like maybe the end of this year, beginning of next year timeframe, we should be seeing that feasibility study. How involved has the Guam Chamber of Commerce been in that effort to look at bringing semiconductor production to Guam?
We have not been particularly involved. I think it's part of our diversification efforts, right? When we have this um, working group with the governor and with GITA.
Hmm.
But in that particular instance, in that particular group, we were not involved in that. But we have been looking at other types of diversification efforts, including pharmaceuticals and things like that. But here's the thing, right? Here's the
I'm
thing.
curious, sorry, before you start on that, whatever happened with the transshipment task force? That was hot and heavy for a while, and it seems like it's just disappeared. Has it been disbanded?
I have not heard from them as well. I was part of that task force. And I think what they did was they put all of the findings together, but I've not seen a final report myself. I should
I've
follow up on
seen
that.
the final report. I've got a copy of the
Oh,
final
you
report,
do?
but
I don't know
yeah, but
exactly.
it has all of these things that they're going to go do, and
Mhm.
how it's going to be executed. But I haven't heard anything else since the report has been out.
Mm. You see, and I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll look into it too. I did not realize that there was already a final report. But I think that, kind of going back, Rob, to, you know, um, uh, manufacturing on Guam, there's infrastructure, right? I mean, we know that we have to improve our infrastructure. How are you going to have
Yes,
manufacturing if you don't have reliable power, if you don't have
yes,
reliable water? If
yes,
that's so key. You can't
yes,
have the power going off at you know, a surprise. You just can't
Yeah.
do that, right? It throws everything off. And so yeah, so that's key. And then another thing too is land, right? How much land is needed, right, to have a manufacturing facility, right? And of course, depending on what kind of manufacturing facility that you're going to need, right? So land is in short supply here on Guam, right? And so
Yes.
uh, in other parts of the world, in Asia, I mean, governments are giving land, right? They're incentivizing businesses to come to their country, right? They're giving them land, they're giving them tax incentives, they're doing all of these different things in order for them to establish their businesses on in their area, right? And they have a good workforce at a cost that can't be beat, right? I mean, and this is Asia here, right? So
Yes.
um, so what's realistic for us, right? And I'm glad that they're doing a feasibility study. They should, because it's important, right? So that they can find out what is needed in order for that business to be sustainable here on Guam, right? How
Right.
can they be successful? Obviously we want them to be successful, right? And so I think that that's key, and I hope that that feasibility study comes out and we can all take a look at it, and hopefully it'll be very positive, and that we'll see that come to fruition. But again, we as a community need to take care of our infrastructure issues. So
I agree
important.
with you 100%. Yep. Yep. And hopefully, looking into these kind of opportunities, whether it be the transshipment task force or semiconductors or anything else, what should come out of that is here are all of the things that we need to invest in order to make way for these things. So now
Yeah,
it gives you a set of priorities that should be able to be turned over from administration to administration, legislature to
yeah,
legislature, and the business community holding the government accountable for executing on all of these things that should be happening to pave the way for different things down the road.
absolutely. 100% agree
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
included in infrastructure should also be reliable transportation, right? I mean, if
Yes.
we can't bring our
Absolutely.
people to work, how, I mean, what
Yes.
can they do?
Yes.
Sad.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. All right, let's shift gears again and go into kind of our final theme segment, if you will. And that's really kind of the chart, the chamber vision and the road ahead, looking
Mhm.
at the next decade and what, from a chamber perspective, you see for the coming decade. So when you look out the next 5 to 10 years, what's your vision for Guam's economy and what do you think must change for us to get there? So right in line with what we just talking about there.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that we are on the verge. We need to make some really, really hard decisions in reference to our tourism industry. I'm just
Mm,
putting it right out there. Um, we can't be everything to everybody. And we need to really, really nail it. I think we need to make a huge, I hate to use paradigm shift because we've been using that word, that phrase for so long, but I think it's going to take that transformation. I think it's
mm,
important. Um, and then, AI is going to really take some jobs away, right? And then we have to really decide uh, what role our talent, our workforce talent, is going to play, right? And understanding, uh, how are we going to implement what those needs are into the classroom, into the curriculum of our schools,
yes.
and
Yes.
we have to start now. We have to start yesterday. It's
Yes.
so important. We've been talking about this since COVID, right? And when this happened, when we closed the world down and everything went online, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're the the people that are doing our cashiers, bank tellers. I mean, just like things like that, they're going to be replaced eventually, right? So what other jobs are going to be out there? How are we going to skill up our residents so that they can meet the demands for those other jobs, right? Um, and AI
Yeah,
is
that's the
really
underlying passion theme for this podcast, really, because that
yes.
tsunami, that technology tsunami is the tidal wave is already coming. It's already
Mhm.
been launched. So the question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to wait for it to hit and then hope that we're going to be okay after we hit and we can recover and adjust to it? Or are we going to get ahead of that wave, maybe even ride it in so that we ride it to prosperity? But yeah,
Exactly.
sorry
And
to
you're right.
interrupt you.
No, Rob, I mean, you and I, when we talk about this, we're on the same page, right? We've talked about this a
Yeah,
couple of times already, right? And I think that
yes,
you really have to make those hard decisions. You know, we have to stop being afraid. We have to take a chance. How are we going to learn? How are we going to grow if we don't make that step? Right?
yeah,
And, yes, we've been doing this the same way so many years, but it's not going to work like that anymore. It's not working like that anymore. We have to change. And yes, it's going to
yeah,
impact people, it's going to impact jobs, but then
yes,
let's work on this so that it'll be the transition that we can give these folks so that they can transition into new jobs, new
yes,
types of work, right? But
yes,
we have to do this. It's so important. If we don't, we're going to be behind, and we're going to lose
yeah,
more people to other
yeah,
places.
yeah. I agree with you 100%. All right. That same theme with the vision. In your opinion, from a chamber perspective, what does a healthy private sector look like on Guam? How would you describe that?
A healthy private sector is a thriving private sector. That means that anybody who wants a job has a job. That means that businesses are not lacking for workforce. That businesses are not having to go through red tape in government, if to be efficient in working with the government. Um, and it is money that is circulating in our economy, and people are able to take their kids to Disneyland on the weekend, and I mean, I'm just saying, if people are able to take their kids to McDonald's after school, that's a win. Okay.
Yes,
If you're able to take a family out to dinner on a weekend, that's a win.
yes,
And if we can't do that, if we can't keep, favorite foods on the table, if we're living paycheck to paycheck, then we're losing. What are we doing
yes,
about it? And how can we make it better for our community? So it's so important to have a thriving private sector. It's so important to get people to work and to get them excited about work and to be excited about getting ahead, right? Why would you want to stay at this level? Why don't you shoot for something more, right?
right,
Right. Yes, there are
right,
reasons why there's a minimum wage. It's because that you can get basic experience. And then beyond the minimum wage, there's that other level, and then the other level, and then
right.
one after that. Let's shoot
Yes,
for that. Let's not stay at this level.
yes, yes, yes. So Guam's future is tied a lot with regional dynamics. Do you see the chamber taking an increasing role in connecting Guam with the rest of Micronesia, CNMI, Palau, etc.?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's already happening. And we have to continue in that, right? We all help each other, and we support each other, and then it helps all of us within the region. And
Okay,
we have to be as optimistic as we can. We need to, businesses need to reinvest and be optimistic themselves so that it can get other people and investors excited about investing in Guam, and
Yes,
right. I mean, because if you're not excited, then who's going to want to come here, right?
that's right.
If you're not
That's right.
reinvesting in your business, who's going to want to come here, right? So
Yeah,
that is key. That is important, and all of us, we all live here. We should all take care of our home, right? Beautification is not just a government thing; it is an everybody thing, and we all need to be able to, be proud of where we live. Contribute to keeping up with, beautification, but it also means whatever way that we're going to give back into our community, right? Whether it's volunteerism, whether it's supporting our schools, whether it's sitting on a government board or a nonprofit board, or that sort of thing. um, that stuff needs to continue, right? And but we also need our government to really understand the private sector, and to give the private sector what it needs to grow. And the government will not worry for money at all. When you give the private sector uh, the ability to grow and to succeed and thrive, you've got your government doesn't have to worry.
that's a great message for the government and for the citizens of Guam. Um, what do you most want chamber members and non-chamber members to know and understand about how they can plug in and contribute with the chamber?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, I think that, um, you know, giving back into the community by volunteering, I think that, and supporting the issues that we espouse as a private sector, and uh, and not be afraid. I think that that's important. I think we have been so afraid since COVID, right? And I think
Yes,
enough is enough. I think it's time to really go out there and put our necks out there and say, we've got to do something. And it's not just for us, it's for the future of our island,
yes,
right? Guam is so beautiful. It's such a wonderful place to live, to raise children, to grow old. Let's do something so that we have the proper facilities in place, right? That we have a working hospital, that we have great transportation, that we have power and clean water, that we don't have to worry about crime as much as we do now, right? There's so many things that we need to do as a community, and let's say enough is enough, and let's do something about it. Don't rest on our laurels. It has to be done.
absolutely, absolutely. And Catherine, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate you for your incredible insights. I tell you, I share your passion because I believe that the changes that need to be made here in Guam, the improvements, the innovation, it's going to be led from the private sector. Just inherently, it's going to be driven from the private sector. Yes, does the public sector, the government have a role to play? They
Yeah.
do, but it's going to be led by the private sector. So we have to have a very healthy, robust, and resilient private sector to get to where we need to go. So thank you for being a guest on the Innovate Guam podcast and sharing your perspectives. Really appreciate that. To my audience, I hope you were inspired and you learned something. I certainly did. And remember to follow me on all social media platforms, including Substack. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. And don't forget to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News, the first and third Fridays of each month. I really appreciated this opportunity to be with you again. See you next time. And remember, whether you're at work, at home, or at play, always innovate. Thank you.